All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. I am your co-host, Matthew Pizzana, a filmmaker, writer, and lover who worships Vincent Gallo and long dolly shots. And with me today is my co-host, Matthew Thornberry, also a filmmaker, writer, and lover of films, as well as finagled his way into the USC Cinema School and is currently running Eye Opener TV. How are you doing today, Matthew?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am lovely today. I'm excited about doing this. This is the first round of this thing, and hopefully people will enjoy it. So
it's going to go off the rails so quickly. Don't worry.
Extra, read all about it.
Ang Lee, the director of Life of Pi and Brokeback Mountain, has a new film that has been screening at a few film festivals around entitled, let me get this right, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. Dumb name, but that's not what we're talking about today. The story focuses on a veteran coming home from war. What we wanted to talk about is the director's decision to shoot in 128 frames per second. Matt, I want to ask you, why?
I'm not really sure because it's hard enough to make a good movie with 24 frames.
Sure.
And all I can think of is it seems to be one of these it's kind of a way like 3D movies were about 10 years ago of getting people back into the theater, and now every theater is offering, food and drinks and like big meals and
right.
And it seems to be just another way of trying to get people back into the cinema instead of watching it on their 60-inch TV at home. The problem is when Peter Jackson tried this with the 48 frames, nobody liked it. So
Everybody screamed.
They're just going to do more.
Yes.
And then if you want to take a look at it from pretty much every movie has some kind of visual effect, whether, you're painting something out or if it's, whatever. There's always effect shots now. So instead of 24 frames, you have 120.
Right.
And we already have a problem with visual effects artists being paid.
Oh, God.
Sometimes not getting paid.
Not at all.
And what is it? 2/3 of the one of the artists on Star Trek Beyond didn't get credited.
Yep.
It's crazy. So now we're going to quintuple their workload and say sorry
and
about
not
you.
Pay them anymore.
Right. That seems to be kind of a problem. And with someone who has such a hit and miss track record as Ang Lee,
right?
Maybe he really should work on form and content,
right,
more than just the technical aspect,
the prettiness of it.
And that's the thing: is it really that pretty?
No. I mean,
Right.
Again, like you said, Peter Jackson. Everybody revolted against that because it looked horrific. Now, what actually is the history of the 48 frames or the 128 frames? That goes back to the 60s, I believe. I believe they were trying to test that out then.
VistaVision.
There you go.
Yeah, with if I remember correctly, Douglas Trumbull, right?
There you go.
And it was basically a way of, again, it's always counteracting what's happening at home. In the 60s and 70s, TVs were getting bigger, and they were finally starting to show movies on TV. So how are you going to do that? We got to get more people into the theater. And it always seems to be people who are very technically minded, which is fine, pushing for this.
Right.
But the problem is we have 120 years of pretty much 24 frames a second. I mean, people are used to that aesthetic. And if it does change, it's going to take quite a bit of time.
At least a generation or two, because our eyes just don't see that. It doesn't work for us.
Right. And there are already enough people who, the second they get a new TV, it's how do I turn off this true motion, which is, the 120 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only fake twice as many frames. And again, it just seems like maybe for a nature documentary, it'd be beautiful, or a travelogue kind of series.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great. But for a narrative, it might be a little distracting, kind of like CinemaScope. When CinemaScope first came out, everybody loved the travelogues, and they loved, hey, I can feel like I'm on a roller coaster. But the second they made How the West Was Won,
right,
it was like,
it doesn't work for
no,
films.
not so much,
It just does not work for film. So the final decision on that, no, thumbs down, thumbs down.
Can we wait? Isn't that trademark?
Oh, we're going to be sued by that guy that died.
Yeah.
We'll talk about him again later. Next topic. All the fuss from the last few years is the invasion of streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and they're all scooping up the new films studios used to have complete control over. This past Sundance, for example, Netflix bought the rights to Nate Parker's new film, The Birth of a Nation, for $17 million, the most ever paid for a Sundance film. Is this the future of cinema? Is this what we're going to do? Are we going to lose our studios?
Well, what do you think?
I think that kids these days don't care about going to the theater, which is crazy to me. We'll talk about this later, but for me, I have a deep, deep love for going to the theater, and I don't see how you can't not enjoy going to the theater.
Well, we are both old men.
That is true. That is a fact. You can't see us right now, but we are indeed old men. So we'll sit on our porch and talk about
With our lemonade and our overalls.
and our shotguns. Can we have shotguns in this scenario? Yes. But I'm very happy about it in the sense that it gives an opportunity to a lot of things that didn't have the opportunity before.
I agree. And my thing is, when we have studios not releasing middle of the range movies anymore,
Sure, yeah.
they'll release cheap horror movies because that's a quick turnaround, and they can make a lot of money off of it. Or they release $200 million movies that most people are meh to. There's kind of a problem. The days of, the $50-60 million movie are kind of gone. And if you take
The
a look,
days of the $20 or $30 million are gone as well.
Exactly. And if you take a look at Netflix, especially, their track record is incredible. Not just for producing new content. Everybody knows their shows, which are usually better than most of the stuff you're finding on broadcast.
Right.
But thanks to Netflix, I was able to see a movie like The Babadook almost immediately after it came out here in the States. No theaters around here were playing it.
Right.
But they showed it, and I was able to find that out. And any new place to see a movie or a series, we got to come up with a new name for movies and
true.
TV.
Yeah, that is changing.
Maybe
Like,
feature and episodic. I don't know. But any new avenues for people with something to say, it's greatly appreciated. We need more companies like this who are willing to say, you know what, we're going $4 billion in debt, but we believe in creating quality content that much.
and allowing the artists to be able to create that content and not be over them all the time and not micromanage the shoots and not micromanage the scripts and not send it to 18 different places where people go, oh, well, I don't like this one thing. So one person says it, then you got to change the whole movie, change the third act or whatever. So I think it's great. I hope that we do more of this, and I would love anybody at Netflix or Hulu to give us some money.
Yes,
I'm willing
please.
to accept that. So third topic today. This one should be pretty easy. Keep in mind that our mics are very touchy, so don't scream too loud when I do this. M. Night Shyamalan has a new movie called Split. I'm going to keep this simple and just ask you the same question you asked me. How does he keep getting money to make movies?
I don't know. I really don't know. This guy had probably one of the best starting efforts that you've ever seen. It wasn't his first. Success wasn't his first, movie as a writer.
Right.
But for that to be like, I am making my directorial debut. This is my big movie. I remember it being out in theaters forever. It was in theaters for something like 6 months when it came out, and everybody loved it. It was incredible. Unbreakable came out. I liked it better. But no one went to go see that.
Not at all.
And I don't know why, but his movies have become jokes. He's become a joke. And yet somehow he still manages to make movies. I don't know what's going on. They have to be making money somewhere. Otherwise, no one would agree to make a movie with him, right?
You would think so. Or he has pictures of somebody.
Yeah, you would think that. But
That's always the...
but like, take a look at the hacked emails with Sony.
Right.
Where everybody was saying that they couldn't stand working with Adam Sandler. They didn't like the fact that he was using their studio as a way of going on vacation with his friends and putting out a piece of crap. Like, that was what they said.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they kept making money with movies like Grown Ups, which, yeah.
We will revisit.
Oh, yeah. Shows why they kept working with him. So I'm guessing either foreign markets or on home video or video on demand, something. They've got to be making money somewhere because there's no critical success for him anymore. When I saw the trailer for Devil and his name came up and like produced by, people laughed in the theater. You don't want people laughing at you when you're trying to make a horror film. And I don't know if you've seen the latest trailer, for this movie with James McAvoy.
I've seen a trailer. It was bad enough.
Looks awful.
Yeah.
So I asked you the question, and you sent it back to me, and then I'm going to send it back to you because I honestly have no idea.
At the end of the day, I think that studios aren't creative, and they know he's a known entity for whatever that he is. He is a
has
known
the name.
entity, and
Right.
so
It's kind of like Kevin Smith. It's like we know that if we put this out, X amount of people are going to get it just because they have that attachment to the name.
Yeah.
And then there are people like us who it's like, man, The Happening sucked. The Village sucked. I got to check out this new one because it's going to suck too.
I just don't watch him. That's my final decision. No M. Night for me.
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me. Who's got you?
Okay, so this part of the podcast is called Destructicon, where we take a look at a scene that we love from a movie that we love even more. This week, I've chosen Superman the movie, 1978, starring Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, Gene Hackman, and everybody else that I love. And the scene we're talking about is mainly the first appearance of Superman doing something super. Matt, you've seen this?
I've seen this within the last 4 hours. Not the movie itself, but I have seen the scene.
Well, that's fine because this is the best scene in the world. And it's my favorite scene, and this is my absolute favorite movie. And everything about it is, I can't even describe how perfect it is. It's something that everybody who wants to be a part of movie making, filmmaking, they need to examine. And that's why we have these 5 sections of Destructicon. So, Deconstructicon.
Deconstructicon, for me, I want to start. I think you always want to start with, the ideas behind the scene, how we got here, what we're doing, what our characters are doing. And so the scene right before this magical scene, Lois Lane is not being very friendly to Clark Kent. She is.
Well, he's a rube. Why? And she's a fast-going lady of the city. Why would she be nice to him?
Yeah, a fast-going lady. She's giving him a hard time, shuts the door on him, and tells him to mail some mail.
Well, to be fair, he was trying to walk into the ladies' room on accident. So.
Well, but he was having nice conversations. Sometimes when you have nice conversations, you go into the ladies' room.
Right.
That's just part of it.
No, it really shows how little she views Clark. It shows that the reason why she can look at Superman and Clark Kent both 6 inches from her face and not see that they're the same guy is the fact that
Clark Kent is invisible.
She's invisible. He's invisible to her. She doesn't think that this god would be standing right in front of her in the hat and the glasses.
Let's start exactly right there. And I love that, what you just said, because I don't think it was until this watch where I really got that, where I really understood, oh, he doesn't have to have a mask on because she thinks so little of him and he exists so not in her universe at all that she would not notice that it was him.
Right.
And just that was perfect. Like it worked.
Yeah.
As a little kid, I was always like, but it's him, and you can see him, and yeah, he's got the little curly part in his hair, but that doesn't make any sense. As an adult, I understand.
Mm-hmm. It's the same way that my wife can be walking. She walked into a movie theater once and literally ran into Robert Downey Jr., bumped into him, and didn't even notice him. Why? Because why would he be at the same movie theater she's at?
Right. I mean, she was at the Universal Studios movie theater. I'm just kidding.
No. We were at the ArcLight.
The old ArcLight. Yeah. Okay, so our scene is, like you said, the first time Superman shows up. Lois Lane has got to go on assignment. I forgot where she's going, but she's going somewhere.
She has to take a helicopter to the airport from the Daily Planet because she's interviewing the president the second he gets off of Air Force One.
Because she's a happening woman, and this is what happening women do.
Well, she is the best reporter at the best newspaper in town, and in the 70s that meant something.
Yes, it did. Now we don't even know what reporters are.
No, we're called multimedia journalists.
Oh, Jesus. That's a whole other topic for another show. So she goes up top. She climbs into the fancy helicopter, and things go awry.
Yeah, it gets stuck on a cable, and it starts spinning around. And again, what people need to remember is that this movie was made in 1978. They didn't have computers. So when they had to paint out, Superman's wires, they had to do it by hand.
Can't imagine.
And this scene, and the scene where he rescues her from the helicopter uses every single trick together. And they'll cut from one shot that's completely live to another that's miniatures, to another that has them live but on a background that's front projection. And from shot to shot, you can't tell that there's a difference. It's incredible. And the fact that this movie is almost 40 years old and still holds up this well is crazy. Especially, again, this was made in 1978 when everybody wore, like, big collars. And, like, the worst thing about this movie is the fashion from the time.
Sure.
Everything else has held up incredibly well. And even the little humor they stick in, like where he walks out and he goes to the phone booth. Because
it's too tiny.
Where does Superman always change? In a phone booth. But in 1978, they didn't have big phone booths anymore. They had the small one. So he has to improvise. That joke can't even work today.
Right.
But it's little moments like that that kind of really help to sell the fact that it's not just a comic book character, but he's a living person.
Yeah.
Right?
You talked about the editing in the scene and the way
Yes.
they did that. 6 minutes. That's all the scene is.
And it's fairly quickly cut.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very quickly cut. But things happen just as long as they need to. And there's no shaky cam. Everything is easily read by the eye. And there's so many takes that, a cut to, a close-up of her mouth screaming, where it kind of shouldn't fit. But for some reason, with the way they put it together, it works.
It's a perfect details to tension.
Yes.
The way that each shot goes back and forth, the tension is built through the shots and through the editing.
Exactly. And as she's about to fall, the cutting's getting tighter. And then you cut to that wide shot of everybody running, and he's just casually walking out, and the music starts to build. And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. But you have the scene progressed, and it got very fast-paced. And then all of a sudden, you're just waiting. Because you're like, okay, Superman's going to show
Superman's
up.
coming.
So let's give it a second. And then Superman gets the greatest introduction, where they hit the music hard, he rips open the shirt, and they cut to the pimp,
Right. We'll focus on the pimp later. We'll come back to the pimp.
We're going to do a whole show
I've got
about the pimp.
questions about the pimp.
My I have to say, a little on the side, my wife's uncle is in this scene. He's the guy who goes, "What the hell is that?"
Nice.
Right. When I found that out, it was a million questions at Thanksgiving dinner.
wow,
It's like,
man.
what was that?
Right.
No, but yeah. And if you take a look at the editing, it really serves also the way that the movie was shot. They weren't shooting in a style different from how the editor cut it, and that happens way too often. And just for a second, can talk about Jeffrey Unsworth's photography in this movie. It is beautiful.
Perfect.
Everything glows, like light just kind of emits from everywhere. And
It is the quintessential 70s film at its best.
yeah, it is. It is. This is everything great that built up through the decade before we got into the coke-fueled movies of the 80s.
Right.
But send me some more questions.
Let's go.
You got some questions.
I got lots of questions.
Ask me
about
some
this
questions.
scene. So that was the overview, like I said, about 6 minutes of the film that really set in motion the rest of everything. In the first time you see Superman, and we go. So let's see. I'm such a sucker for LA at night. The helicopter shot as they're coming in, you're seeing all the beautiful buildings. They land on the rooftop. Sets an emotion, sets a scene, sets the location of everything just perfectly. First of all, that was LA, right?
I believe that they shot the exteriors in Toronto. if I'm not
Toronto is
mistaken.
beautiful then. Let me just say that.
But then again, it's kind of hard to tell because the photography for this movie took place on 6 continents. At one point, they had, I think, like 18 crews shooting at the same time just to
Good
get
Lord.
background plates and
Right.
stuff. So this stuff is from all over. After they shot the movie, Christopher Reeve had like another 9 months worth of visual effects to do. Like that's him in a harness for almost another year. Like this was not a small production. This is like the Gone with the Wind of its time.
Right.
Which is also one of the reasons why it's held up as, I think, the best superhero movie of all time.
Maybe. One of the things that you compare it to movies now, even Superman now.
Oh,
Superman has to save everything, not to save the universe.
No, he doesn't. Because if that were true, he would have saved somebody in the last 2 movies.
He didn't save anybody.
He doesn't save anybody in Man of Steel. In fact, he causes deaths.
Right.
And he saves a couple of people in Batman v
Non-essentials.
Superman, but he looks angry about it.
Right.
But when he saves her in this, and he's like, "This man needs a doctor," and then he reassures her,
Right.
you know, hope this experience hasn't put you off flying.
that joke was
Right.
very good.
And it's just, you look at him and he has that smile, that warmth. And the thing that I love about this movie and why this is my favorite movie of all time is the fact that it shows what we want to be. Superman is the ideal. He's Superman, right? He does the right thing pretty much all the time. And I'll have to cut this. He does the right thing all the time. And there's something comforting about that. There's something where you look at him and it's like, okay, I'm going to be fine because this guy's got me. And it's something that the new movies have shied away from, which I don't understand. I don't understand why Superman has to be the angry, bitter loner. That's Batman's job.
Right. And he does very well.
Right. And it's just this is so different from the modern interpretation.
This is an intimacy. It's a woman and a helicopter, and it's not the world. It's not Earth. He's just simply saving a woman and the guy in the helicopter.
And the guy.
And that's an intimacy that movies now lose. Like, you don't have that person-to-person interaction.
Except for Deadpool.
Except for Deadpool. But it's just because it's a big-budget movie, just because there's a lot of action, just because all these things are happening, there still have to be intimate moments that we as people can connect with.
Because the thing is, if you don't care about these people, then why are you watching the action?
Right.
You know, and that's what they spent the previous hour and 10 minutes of the movie setting up, was their relationship, who this guy is, why you need to care about him, and why he would care about her.
Right.
And that's what they pulled off masterfully in this. More questions.
Let's talk about the score. I think that
It's his best work.
yes.
Hands down his best work.
Yes. When you get to the moment when the Superman music begins to play, like you said earlier,
I got goosebumps.
Goosebumps. It really is, because you know what's coming, and it's just a slow build, and you've already got the helicopter spinning, and so there's a little bit of tension with that music there, and then he comes out, and then the Superman music mixes with that.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing.
And can you this is how important the score is. Have you ever, because you and I were born after this movie came out, have you ever thought about Superman or had a discussion where someone mentioned Superman where you didn't automatically think about that theme?
Never.
Exactly. I remember in the Olympics years ago, Muhammad Ali came out and they played the Superman theme. When they did the finale for Seinfeld, they had that great montage put together to the Superman theme. It is such a part of our culture. And it's all from, if this was a bad movie with a decent theme, nobody would have remembered it.
Nope.
But they fit so well together. It really was lightning in a bottle. There's no reason why any of these things should have worked, especially since the only examples we had of superheroes at the time were the Adam West Batman and the Linda Carter Wonder Woman, which was on TV at the time.
Right.
And this was like, those are great, yeah, but we're going to make a legitimate movie. They wanted to make a movie first that just so happened to have superheroes in it. They weren't saying, hey, let's make a superhero movie. And this movie has been so important to comic books and to the mythos of Superman that the new Supergirl TV show considers this canon. They've introduced Superman in season 2 of Supergirl. And one of the characters said, when Lex Luthor set off the bomb and caused the earthquake, and I'm like, oh, well, that's in continuity now.
Right.
All right.
That's amazing that they were able to do that, and it's still something after all this time that they're still using. I want to talk a little bit about the miniatures and how they did everything. Not just the miniatures, but how you put together a helicopter crashing on top of the building.
Okay, well, a lot of that was actually done with the helicopter itself. They built a helicopter. and that was, a prop. But they did have miniatures. The shot where everybody's looking at the building, and you see the top of the building, the people at the bottom, the people, and the bottom of the building's all real. And then it's a miniature. It's not a matte painting. It's a miniature, but they have the two composited together. And then when there's a shot where he grabs the helicopter as it's falling, the medium shot is, of course, live action against front screen projection. But then when it cuts wide, it's a miniature. And until you see it on like a 60-foot screen, you can't tell. But the overhead shot where he lands, it's live.
That's amazing.
So they had
amazing.
like a 150-foot crane. Yeah, it's amazing.
To be able to see just the workers that were on the roof as well, you could see it in their eyes. Like they were mesmerized
Right.
by watching it. Like it was a real emotional moment that they showed.
Yeah, when Richard Donner made the movie, he had a word that he liked to use, verisimilitude, finding the truth in it. And that's why the movie works so well. It's because they never once say, oh, it's a comic book movie. No, they're taking this seriously. Everybody's playing it. It's kind of like Leslie Nielsen in Naked Gun.
Oh, yeah.
Serious in a silly situation. This is a comic book movie. It's a silly situation. This guy can fly. He wears a red and blue suit, but they're all playing it 100% seriously, and there's never a wink to the camera. Not really.
Right.
The closest thing is probably the joke about the.
But they do have funny moments, but it is not a wink to the camera.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite funny line? I mean, for me, it was when he grabs her and he said, "I've got you," and she said, "But who's got you?"
Yeah, I've got you.
Yeah.
You've got me. Who's got you?
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, it was worked perfectly.
And then my favorite part of that isn't her line. It's after she says that, he just goes,
Yeah.
he just kind of laughs.
Oh,
it's
silly.
Like, it's like, oh, yeah,
You're so
that's
silly.
funny. But no, I don't have a favorite funny line. But when her question where she says, "Who are you?" I love that delivery because you really believe it's like, what? Like, you've never seen anything like this. Like, what is he? And you completely believe how dumbfounded she is. And then when he just looks and says, "A friend," and flies off. And I still don't know how they did that where he flies off and then arches back.
Right. That was.
Like, I don't know how they did it.
He really could fly. That's what it was.
It has to be.
So, why the pimp? Why the ladies?
I think part of it might be a holdover from part of the original script. The original script was written by Mario Puzo, and at one point had him meeting Telly Savalas, and he goes like, "Who loves you, baby?" and all that. And I think it might have been one of those things that everybody just kind of left in, because it's kind of like the Grand Guignol, how when they would do plays that had horror, they break it up. They do horror, comedy, horror, comedy, horror. Because if you have too much of one thing, you're going to lose the audience. And if you don't have just a couple of those little moments in there, like the pimp, it's going to seem a little too self-important, a little too serious. I guess that's why. I honestly don't know, but it's one of those things that I've always found a little funny. I know a few people that it really bugs, but
Has Superman ever been to him for a woman? It seemed like their interaction was a little too comfortable.
no,
for
he's
me.
all about Lois
Lois
Lane.
Lane.
Yeah.
Well, she's kind of withholding a lot of that for a while, so I feel like maybe.
No. Second movie happens like right after this one, and he knocks her up.
All right,
Yeah.
fair enough. So okay, well, that is I never can forget the Car 54 shot. Maybe my favorite shot in cinema. Anytime they do it, camera in between the lights,
love
and
it.
the lights are going,
love
it's
it.
coming over. Oh, that's so good.
This movie is just this movie's Americana, which is funny because most of it was shot outside of the U.S., but this movie just feels right. You know, when I saw even something as great as The Dark Knight, there are moments where I'm like, this part of this doesn't feel like a Batman movie. This, in and out, balls to bones, feels like a Superman movie. It is the Superman movie. And I saw this at the ArcLight with Richard Donner. And someone in the audience.
Name drop.
Right. And of all the things to talk to him
Right.
about, I talked to him about his time directing Gilligan's Island. But someone asked him, "Are you going to do another superhero movie?" And this was back in like 2005. And he goes, "Why? I've already done the best one." Well, he has.
Yeah.
He has.
Put a stamp on that. He is done, and we are done. And that was Superman in 1978. Now, this one we both recommend. Go watch
Yes.
it now.
Now,
Watch
buy,
it in
no,
a big
don't even
screen.
watch it. Buy it and enjoy it. It's the best movie ever.
Rent out a movie theater so you can watch it on the big screen.
Yes.
Pay the extra money. Call us. Tell us, and we'll come out. I don't want to buy tickets,
I'll buy the popcorn.
but I'll come out.
I will buy popcorn.
I'll eat the popcorn. We here at mattmen, we love some bad movies.
Oh, we love them.
We're not going to lie to you. We will watch some terrible flicks. We will watch some embarrassing flicks, and we will watch some flicks that nobody ever, ever, ever should watch. So let's talk about a couple of those. Let's start with yours. I'm fascinated by this.
Okay.
When you sent me this choice, I thought maybe it was a typo.
Well, let me kind of put this into context here. okay?
Context me, please.
Because I've had a lot of talks with friends about what our guilty pleasure films are.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone says like, "Oh, I love Showgirls," it's like, well, of course, because it's trash, it's ridiculous, and it's the most quotable movie ever made.
Everybody loves it because it's kitschy.
Right. For me, an actual a film that you're really embarrassed to tell somebody about,
Right.
like that's a guilty pleasure. One that when I tell someone that for some reason that I like this movie, that I know they're going to look at me as a lesser person from here on out.
Remember, guys, USC. He went to USC, so
that's when you know it's a real guilty pleasure. So mine, after thinking long and hard about this.
I feel like you didn't think that long.
No, I
think you
did.
were
I
ready
did.
for it.
Because at first I was like, Judge Dredd. And it's like, no, because Judge Dredd has some really great production design and, it's kitschy. And no, mine it's Grown Ups.
Oh.
The Adam Sandler vehicle, Grown Ups.
A tomato rating of 10%.
Yes, I know. And when I told my roommate, who also was in film at USC, that this was my guilty pleasure movie, he actually got angry at me and didn't talk to me for a couple of days.
I can see that.
Yeah. But it's one of these movies, I didn't see it in the theater.
Okay.
I didn't rent it. But it's always on FX. It's always on. And one day it was on, and it started up, and I watched it. And it's one of these movies, I guess it's kind of like the film equivalent of Cheese Whiz. Doesn't taste particularly good.
But people of Philadelphia love it.
Yeah. It's not going to win any culinary awards. It's not even going to fill you up, and it's really not good for you.
Right.
But for some reason, you keep eating it anyway. And I don't know if it's the fact that it's so middle of the road bland. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen by a long shot.
Oh, no.
And there are a couple of moments where Rob Schneider's hot daughter is working on the car, and the guys are taking turns looking and then looking away so they don't get caught. Not saying my roommates and I did something similar in college, but
Sure.
Yeah, right. So there are a couple of moments that you can kind of latch on to. And then, it has the kids and I'm a father, blah, blah, blah. And it's just one of these things that I'm not going to go searching for it. I'm never going to say, hey, you know what we need to watch right now? But if it's on and I'm working and I need something on in the background, I'm not going to turn it off. I know.
It's your comfort food. Can we say that? Can we say that it's your comfort food?
I wouldn't even say that because comfort food tastes good.
That's true.
Comfort food for me would be...
I guess you would have to own a copy of it to be a real comfort
right.
food.
Like RoboCop is comfort food to me.
New or
okay?
old?
What do you think?
I'm just kidding.
Right? No, the remake's not terrible.
Right.
But
it's not RoboCop.
No, it's not.
It's not RoboCop.
No, it's PG-13, man. No, there's something like...
Can you pitch Grown Ups to us? Pitch this. How are you going to sell this to the people?
Oh, to get them to watch it? I wouldn't. Because honestly, there's nothing remarkable about it. To me, it falls in the same space as Men in Black 2, where it's white bread. It has no calories.
Mm-hmm.
There's no taste.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. It exists. If you need something on in the background while you're folding laundry, that's perfect. If you need something to just... I don't even know. I can't. It's so hard for me to defend this movie.
So you
It's so
don't
difficult.
recommend it to people.
No, this is why it's a guilty pleasure. This is why. Because if you wanted to tell somebody about it, if you were really that worked up about a movie where you're like, hey, you need to watch this, it's not a guilty pleasure. Right. This is one that you hide away. And for me, it's so hidden away that I don't even own it. Because why would I?
Why would you indeed? I got you. Well, let's, now that we've made fun of you for a little while, I am a sucker for all things crime and thrillers.
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
Did you see Grown Ups?
I have seen enough of it.
Okay, yeah.
It was on FX, and I did watch a few, but after the second commercial break, I couldn't.
You're done.
I was out. I checked out.
You didn't miss anything.
So I watched probably about as much of that as you watched of Knockaround Guys.
I watched exactly half of Knockaround Guys.
My favorite embarrassing film. It is, I will get the rating in just 1 second. I believe it's like 22% Rotten Tomatoes rating.
Yeah.
A fascinating little tale of some sons of criminals who think that they need to get into the crime business, but they're kind of fuck-ups. And
we can swear on this show.
I allow one F word per 33 minutes.
Okay.
Yes, noted. So, gosh, I don't even know where to begin with this. I hope that people love Barry Pepper. I think that that's the most important thing. He is not appreciated nearly enough.
No.
This is not the Barry Pepper movie to watch.
No, when I first saw Saving Private Ryan, I thought as long as he makes it out alive, they can rewrite history and have the Nazis win, and I'll be okay.
Just as long as Barry Pepper makes it.
As long as Barry Pepper makes it.
So Barry Pepper would be the son of Dennis Hopper, who's a criminal mastermind, I guess, in New York. And so they have to go pick up some money in Wyoming, I believe. So they send out quality Seth Green, actor extraordinaire, to go pick up the money, except he likes his cocaine, and the paranoia gets to him, and the money is lost. So they have to go to this buttfuck town. Oh, sorry. I used your other one. I can't help it. With this movie, I just can't help it. So the crew from New York goes to Wyoming to pick up the money. You got the crew. Vin Diesel is the muscle of the group. There's a awesome scene in the bar where he beats up a guy to a pulp.
Okay. I'm going to stop you right there.
Go for it.
Because I specifically wrote this down, that the scene where he fights the guy is the most boring, sad fight I've ever seen. It's not cool. It's not exciting. It's just sad and weird, and everybody's standing around just looking at him. And in an age where everybody is so concerned about making fun of different types of people,
right?
Hollywood will never, ever, ever stop with the redneck stereotype.
Nope, it's too easy.
It's way too easy.
It is too easy.
And the guy he beats up is just the most stereotypical redneck you've ever seen.
He is the guy at the bar. It's the
in
idea.
The padded vest.
Yeah, in the padded vest. You got to go in and beat up the biggest guy, and then everybody will submit to your will. Doesn't work. Well, I mean, it does kind of work, but they don't get their money back from that. You have corrupt local cops, which I love. You can't go wrong with a good corrupt local cop.
No.
There's a Guido actor in this film. Nice fellow, I'm sure, but could not act his way out of a box, as they might say. And I'm glad we've never seen him again.
Another point I was going to make, it's sad when Vin Diesel is the best actor in the movie.
He was. Yeah.
He is the best actor in Knockaround Guys. Let that sink in.
It's amazing. I saw it the first time, I believe, on cable station. I'm sure it was just on randomly like that. I do support Vin Diesel, so I was all on board with that. I would say the storyline falls apart about 2 minutes into it, probably.
Oh, it's a snowball of terribleness.
Yes.
It starts like and then gets so bad, scene after scene after scene. It gets worse. And I don't know about you, but for me, the thing that really took me out of it were the terrible accents that everybody used.
Yes.
Hey, we got to go over here and we got to get the money. Oh, we got to get this money. Hey.
Yeah. It was rough.
And, okay, John Malkovich might be the epitome of, is he a great actor in a bad movie, or is he really a bad actor masquerading as a good one?
Right. He can sneak into a few roles.
I can't tell.
Well, let me just tell you at the end, it turns out that he's the guy who's been stealing the money. And
What?
Yeah, it was the right-hand man all the time.
I never would have seen that coming.
The trusted uncle. So, everybody, I don't care what Matt says. Go watch Knock Around Guys. You will not enjoy it. And then send me messages afterwards. I'm fine with that. But I love it, and I don't care.
I feel the same. Well, no, I can't even say that about grown-ups. I don't love it. It's just, it's there. It's a guilty pleasure.
And I do own it on DVD.
Knock Around Guys?
Yeah.
I remember seeing the trailer a million times when it came out. And by the way, the street luge scene is the second I saw it, I'm like, oh, this came out in 2001.
Uh-huh.
Like, I just knew.
It is very time-stamped.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes we just like to talk about movies, talk about Hollywood. And for me, this week, my just saying stuff is something that we touched on earlier. Go to the movie theaters. If you can't enjoy a movie in the movie theater, remember that you're with your woman for an hour and a half and you don't have to talk to her. So at the end of the day, either way, going to the movies is wonderful. Do it. I don't care what you see. Go.
I'm actually going to counter that. Go to the movies, but care about what you see. And the reason why is because Hollywood listens to dollars. They don't listen to critics. They don't listen to buzz. Otherwise, we would have had 9 Snakes on a Plane movie by now. They listen to dollars. And every time a Medea movie reaches number 1, that's our fault.
Mm-hmm.
Every time Paranormal Activity 9 reaches number 1, that's our fault. We need to be more selective. And when people say, oh, it's just a movie, here's the thing. Movies are the culture that we're going to leave behind. 300 years from now, people are going to judge us based on these works. It's not just frivolous entertainment. This is what we have to say about us, about where we are, who we are, where we're going. And we need to be cognizant of how important this is. Because if I ask you to name, let's say, 3. Name me 3 athletes from more than 100 years ago. Could you do it?
Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth.
Not 100 years ago.
Babe Ruth was playing 100 years ago. I think so. And
No.
I'm out.
Okay. Name artist, philosopher, musician, whatever. Somebody in the arts from 300 years ago. Name me 5 of them.
Botticelli.
If you can name all of the Ninja Turtles, you've done it.
No, right. That's true.
You know?
Fair enough, yeah.
And that's the thing. We spend the art that we create is what we're going to be known for. And go see movies, but make sure they're worthy of your money. Make sure they're worthy of us. Make sure that we're sending a message to the people creating this stuff that we want more stuff like It Follows. You know, we want more stuff like, even though I'm not the biggest Gallo fan, you know, we want more voices like that. We don't need more remakes of movies that were fine to begin with.
Don't listen to Matt. Go see Medea in the Halloween movie.
Don't listen to Matt.
So I have no idea what time of year you'll be listening to this podcast. Hopefully you'll be listening to it 18 years from now in the summer of whatever that year might be. But right now for us, it's almost Halloween time.
Yeah.
So I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't give a little Halloween movie love out there to the people.
Love Halloween. The second October comes around, it's all horror.
All
for me.
horror,
Yeah.
all month.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we'll start there. So Halloween movies are horror movies to you?
Not always.
Okay.
You have something like Nightmare Before Christmas, which I think you can easily watch from October through the end of the year. It just kind of covers everything.
Right.
But typically, when you think of Halloween, you think of horror films.
Sure.
But then again, what you classify as a horror film is very broad. So my favorite horror film is the Frederick March version of Jekyll and Hyde. That is my
Classic.
absolute favorite. But I don't know if I'd call it a horror film. It kind of is, but it's sci-fi at the same time. I don't know.
I think that's the perfect balance. I just saw Donnie Darko last week with Richard Kelly, and that's one that's
humble brag.
Exactly. That's a Halloween and it's it's sci-fi, and you mix that, and I think this is the perfect mix of
E.T.
dealing with that.
E.T. is a Halloween movie. I gotta watch that this weekend. Yeah,
yeah, it's about time. Yeah, before the month is up. So that you can have your horror, you can have your slasher, and the slasher can have several different subgenres that shoots off of. For me, I'm going to be honest. I love that stupid the funny slasher movie that I can't think of the name of right now that I should have had pulled up, but Scream. Good Lord. Scream for me.
Was the first one really that funny, or did they get funny? That one was really just kind of a deconstruction, right?
Well, we could do 20 minutes on is a movie funny afterwards. I mean, watching Donnie Darko, the laughs that were in the theater this time in 2016 were not laughs that you would have gotten in 2001, 2002 when you were doing it. And so it is kind of how the movie evolves. But I feel like that it was funny, and it had to be funny because I'm a chicken and I don't watch scary movies. So I had to find some humor in it.
Well, there we go. What's the scariest movie you've ever seen?
Scariest movie I've ever seen, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one when I was young.
Okay, yeah.
Because there are just moments in that film, because it was such a real film too. I mean, the way they shot it, and I've listened to stories about them dragging the actress as she's skinning her knees, and they have to shoot multiple times and stuff. So it was a real process to get that thing done. So I think the realness helped. And growing up in the country, I'm always fearful of things like that happening, like The House of a Thousand Corpses. Wasn't a good movie, but it scared me.
That's one I always go back to. I saw that in the theater, hated it.
Yeah.
But I keep going back to it because something about it draws me in. I don't know what it is.
It makes me so just goosebumps.
That far shot right before Walton Goggins gets it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Yeah. Holds on it forever.
And that is something that you can get in a Halloween movie that you can't necessarily get in another genre to be able to utilize that. So let's see. There's been you know what? I thought about this while we're doing that nobody cares about, but I remember this. The first movie that I was ever in was a Halloween movie. It was a terrible movie. I won't even tell you the name, so you can't look
Please
it up.
tell me.
John Keyes directed it. It's on this list somewhere. I'll find it for you later. But yeah,
really?
It was not good. It was a local Dallas film, but I dressed up. It may have been Elvis. I think I dressed up as Elvis. Movie.
I was the editor on 2 sci-fi horror movies when I worked for the Asylum.
Oh yes, the Asylum. We'll talk many times over the podcast about them.
And the funny thing is, they're the nicest guys. They really are.
Yeah. How about? Are you an Ernest Goes To kind of fella? He did a Halloween movie.
Yeah, Ernest Scared Stupid. I saw it in the theater.
Yeah.
Opening day, I saw it in the theater with some friends. For kids, not a bad little movie. That's a whole other ball of wax right there. Are scary movies you can watch at Halloween with your kids, because they're very few, as I've found out. But movies like Coraline, which is terrifying for a kid, and it's beautiful, or Paranorman, they hit that right balance of we're going to be creepy and weird and a little bit scary, but also family friendly. I think, and like the Addams Family movies are the same kind of way.
Right. And I think that's important. Yeah. I mean, Halloween is a kid's holiday.
Exactly.
I know that we adults dress up now and get all crazy with our horror outfits and stuff, but at the end of the day, it is a kid's
holiday. Did you say horror or whore?
Whore. I did go with whore. Because everything is that nowadays. But, yeah, I mean, it's important to have something for the kids. Hallows End is the name of the movie that I was in.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. You haven't seen it, but you've heard of it. How about the classic? I feel like that Halloween movies are one of the genres that has so many, not remakes, but 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.
It's because they're cheap, and usually,
right.
And you can churn them out. And when you make a movie for $150,000, and it ends up making 50, 60 million,
right.
Of course you're gonna make another one.
Always.
Yeah.
God forbid.
Except for Blair Witch.
It just
$60,000 gave them $300 million. They made a sequel, and then they didn't get another movie for 15 years.
Right, and then the next movie that they did, another Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
So that's sad for them.
I'm gonna go look for my sister that disappeared 15 years ago. Wait, what? What? This doesn't make any sense.
Do you have a favorite trope from Halloween movies? Is there something that you love in the Halloween genre?
Not so much a trope, just the overall feeling I get of the fall. You know, it's not cold, but a little crisp in the air, and it's just everything seems a little blue, a little dark, and a little creepy. I really dig that vibe. You know, I don't like looking at a movie like a Halloween movie or a scary movie and feeling like, oh, those actors look like they're really hot right now. You know, no, for me, it's very much about not so much tied to the day of Halloween, just the whole feeling of the fall.
Yeah, you know, I didn't think about this till now, but animals talking. You throw an animal talking to a Halloween movie, I'm on.
Are you talking about Antichrist?
No, actually, I was talking about this one little movie, and it had a little bit of Halloween in it. It certainly wasn't a Halloween movie per se.
Hocus Pocus.
Oh, God. Oh, now you've hurt my feelings. Like I would watch that. And it was a talking dog, and he's a writer, and so the dog's trying to help him out with the script. And it was such a weird thing, but there was a little twinge of that Halloween feel of an animal talking and it just being off the rails. Not unlike Son of Sam, when the dog starts talking to Son of Sam. Obviously not a Halloween movie, but same kind of deal. So, did we miss any Halloween movies?
Oh, there are a lot. There are movies that people need to watch, like Trick or Treat, which not nearly enough people have seen.
Didn't talk any much about The Exorcist.
And I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it now. My favorite Halloween film.
Put it.
As in, like, from the series Halloween.
Okay.
It's not Halloween 2.
All right.
It's Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Oh.
Because I liked the idea when he first started it. He wanted it, John Carpenter wanted it to be a yearly film, and they would do a different story every year. But the first one was so successful, they had to make a sequel. And then after the sequel, they said, okay, well, we're going to start with the anthology on the third one.
Right.
But by that point, everybody really liked the guy in the white mask. And for me, slasher movies are not scary, especially somebody like Michael Myers or Jason, where it's like, even as a fat guy, I can run faster than these guys walk.
Right.
To me, that's not scary. Season of the Witch, where you're murdering kids with their own Halloween costumes, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's very unnerving.
Yeah, it's great.
Me, I'm going to have to go with the Scooby-Doo Halloween movie. I keep it simple. And the Goblin King.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Huh.
If Scooby-Doo is an option, I'm probably going to pick it.
Okay, sure.
So that was our first episode. Mattmen, episode 1.
That was so fun.
I think we learned some things.
Yeah, I learned that I need to get better.
I learned that you need to watch the rest of Knockaround, guys.
No, I don't.
And we both learned a little bit something about life, I think.
Yes, I've learned that I'm not going to finish Knockaround, guys.
Looking forward to next week, where we're going to talk about a movie that I like. I'm just going to insert it right there. That's why I left a gap there. I'll record it later. Nobody will ever know.
Name the first one off the top of your head.
Andre Rublev, probably, when he comes back to the monastery. That's a perfect film for me.
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, it's you spend a year in Russian film class and you'll learn some things. So, do we want to tell our people anything else? Anything else before we go?
Let's give them one quick suggestion of what to watch.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
My suggestion.
I'm gonna go with if you haven't seen Stranger Things, just do it. I know people that still haven't seen it.
That's ridiculous.
Just get on it and watch it and enjoy the hell out of it.
Okay, if we're going this year, I'm gonna go with Hell or High Water. It was a little independent crime flick that not a lot of people saw, but I think there are going to be some awards given to Bridges on that one, and it was great. And Chris Pine is fantastic. I didn't know it until that film, but that dude can act. So watch Hell or High Water.
That's the way I feel about Tyler Perry and any movie that's not Medea. When I saw Gone Girl, I'm like, holy shit, this guy can act.
He's not bad.
Yeah.
Best acting the money can buy. So for next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Matt.
We'll see you then.
See you.